And to provide another perspective on this very important issue of identity, I asked Matthew Allen, who's a professor of Internet Studies and the head of Deakin School of Communication and Creative Arts, for what advice he would give current students about negotiating their way through the online world in preparation for the very near future.
The profound change of mass uptake of the internet and all its component parts is really developing in society a sense that who we are is now expressed through these online technologies. People used to ponder what was the difference between your offline identity, your real identity, and the presence you had online. And then Facebook came along, and even its name, Facebook, which was a play on the books of photos that colleges use to sort of identify who their students are in America. We can't be who we are anymore without some kind of online presence. Even those people who refuse or have nothing online, they're looked at as, in a sense, being blank or not there. Whereas 10, 15 years ago, most people were not online. It was difficult to have your homepage. You couldn't maintain a regular presence online except in some niche channels with a small number of people. Now I think for most Australians, most people in the developed world, so much of what we try to do, our jobs, our careers, our love lives, our social life, study, if you are not visible and present online, you can't do those things. And I guess at a deeper level, we experience who we are in the world through this sense of others looking at us. So we know who we are in part because of the audiences we attract. So this is why, in a sense, the internet is very much a media form, but it's a very different media form to what we've had before. So mostly for a long time, media was films and radio and television and newspapers, and it was a small number of people producing content for a lot of people to read. We experienced ourselves as an audience reading or viewing or listening. The internet, by redistributing the means of producing information, including information about ourselves, and let's face it, in the contemporary world, most media does seem to be about personalities, not about things. Now we are experiencing ourselves not so much as an audience, but as the product itself. And I think we can see the development of interest in and the number of shows on television that attract large viewings, which are about celebrities or about talent shows or similar things. These are paralleling this move where the person is now the media product, and we experience ourselves and who we are as, if you like, the producers of ourselves, and then turn around and we are the audiences for others like ourselves.
What advice would you give for current students in relation to how they construct themselves online?
I think that the first thing to realise is that when you are studying to work in the media industries, you are in what you might call a temporary third zone. You're somewhere between the kind of controlled anonymity of childhood and youth and school and the kind of much more open play of, if you like, adult working life. The zone in between is both a place to play around with your identity formation online, but to probably do it with a stronger sense of where you're going rather than where you've been. So one of the things that we have done in other courses around internet communications and online media is to actually get people in first year to play with their identities, and then in the second year of their course start to establish their online presence, their online portfolio. That will be the kind of thing that gets them work in future. To, in a sense, bifurcate your private self, which you might tend to pursue through Facebook, Twitter perhaps, and then set up a clear professional identity, and perhaps try to keep those two things apart. Don't use similar usernames, don't cross-link between them, because you're never quite sure how something in your private life might then cross over negatively into your public persona. And in a way, this challenge, this what do I do? How do I have a career in media when so much of media is now about online, and yet my personal life is visible to many people online? That uncertainty of not knowing what to do tells us something really profound about the impact of digital technologies on society. We've thrown all the pieces up in the air in the last 20 years and they haven't come down into a settled pattern yet. Just as we look at doctors in society and think that's a very stable profession and that's never changed, and we all know what it means to be a doctor and we know how to get there and what it means, and I wish I'd got into medicine, or thank God I didn't get into medicine. A couple of hundred years ago, doctors, they were like barbers, and they were pretty dangerous people to be around. They'd probably kill you more than save you, and it's really only since the early 19th century, so perhaps about 200 years, that doctoring has moved from being something a bit on the edge, where no one really knew what it meant to be a doctor, to being a profession with that stability. So the current uncertainty that you face in thinking, how do I as a student prepare for work in the media fields, it can be challenging, but it also tells you something about your capacity to grasp that future and create the kind of presence which, in a sense, employers will look at and say, we have to employ this person. So probably the key thing is to show skills, your digital literacy, visual abilities, not just words, and your sophistication in keeping separate the private, personal use of the internet from what you do professionally. That, more than anything, will recommend you as someone worth employing.
Many thanks to Matt for giving up his time. Did you want to add anything? Why would you bother asking me anything? You haven't had me in a video for weeks. Well, did you have anything useful to say? Okay then. Look, the simple truth is this. We do still have a small number of students actively engaged on Twitter, but this is a tiny minority out of the overall number of students enrolled in the unit. And the YouTube comment sections have been dead for ages. What about me profiles? Does anyone even remember they have one? And meLecture views. Compare the start of trimester to the end of trimester. Statistics don't lie. And you may have persuaded a few students to be in these meLectures, but did anyone take up your invitation from the start of trimester from people who are not stuck in your seminars to be involved, to get in touch with you and participate?
Hey! Just here in New Zealand, submitted my assignment last night. I'm learning online and loving it.
Well, shut up. Interesting. It's obvious that learning how to actively and strategically use all this digital media stuff is hard as hell, and few people could be bothered.
Tell you what, it's a lot easier than learning how to snowboard.
Whatever. Do you ever change your t-shirt? Off. Many thanks to Kath for her help there. Of course, not everything went to plan in these meLectures. Thanks. Thanks. And some strategies turned out to be so problematic last year that I decided to steer clear of them entirely. So that's about... They're not actually being sort of graded until we see the finalised project. It's okay, Tiff. And the other thing that you really... Tiffany. It's alright. Good girl. Okay. Yep. And I strongly encourage you to move forward with that process at the rate that the group has Jeff, good girl. Yeah, you scared him away. Good girl. Right. But then again, I wasn't the only one stuffing up, even when the script required remembering only one word. Can't you play any real music?
Shut up.
Do you want to try that once more? You couldn't remember, shut up. That's so going to be in an outtakes. I will use an outtake.
Bastard.
So I hope you found this unit interesting and enjoyable, and I've very much appreciated the engagement and participation of so many students, and the superb effort that people have put into what have often been intimidating forms of assessment. We've embraced various tenets of the Media Studies 2.0 approach, and explored both the potentialities of digital media innovation, as well as its limitations, its problems, and even its dangers. This unit has raised some big questions through its content, delivery, and assessment, not least of all concerning what is the future of education. Have these meLectures, for instance, been worthwhile and effective? Or have I just been what Charlie Brooker would call fake fodder on the screen? Here's some thoughts on our implementation of Media Studies 2.0 from Grady Hancock, the other ALC201 tutor.
Well, I think it was a learning process for me as much as it was for the students. And what I found at the beginning was I got really excited by it. I thought if I were a student in this scenario, I'd feel really empowered. And the idea that you can have an interactive and more kind of I guess more hands-on approach to the curriculum itself was really exciting, and I guess getting the students to feel like they had the right and the authority to participate in that interactive manner, to get online and use the ALC201 hashtag to, contribute to the cache of information that other students could use and that I could use in my teaching as well. So I found it really fantastic.
It's great to see some students actually saying, why create? There's no point creating if you don't share, and they were tweeting out their blog posts and YouTube videos and that kind of thing. So
absolutely, yeah, and there were those students that did feel like sharing, what they created was useful and meaningful were the ones that have done really well, that have got a lot out of this. So you could see that it was working for people, that this new Media Studies 2.0 approach, it works, it does work for people.
But now it's time to say farewell, and I wish you all the very best with your studies and your future endeavours. Thank you for being a part of ALC 201. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. But hang on, surely that's too depressing. We haven't really lost all that much with the rise of digital media, have we? Surely we've gained as much as we've lost. I leave that question to you. But for the sake of not going out on a depressing note, which I'm probably not supposed to do, let's have a happier ending, no matter how artificial it might now seem. And hopefully this multifaceted ending provides a sense of ambiguity, as it's this ambiguity that you're going to have to live with in the years ahead. There are exciting things and concerning things, empowering things and things that limit our agency, things that allow us to be visible and things that make us exposed to being watched. Remember this, or at least type a note into your phone so that it can remember it for you. Now for the happy ending. Goodbye. Couldn't help yourself, could you?